Let's talk about the Grammys almost never getting it right when it comes to R&B. The Grammys announced nominations for the 2023 awards, and it's kind of a shambles, especially in R&B and soul. Earlier this year, we were celebrating Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels winning Best R&B Album at the 2022 Grammys, but that feels like one right in a pile of wrong. Let's run down the list of mishaps in the Grammys R&B nominations this year. Summer Walker was totally snubbed, didn't get any nominations at all for Still Over It, which broke all kinds of records its debut week, including becoming the biggest streaming debut for an R&B album by a female artist in US history. If you combine that with the fact that Still Over It is sonically and artistically such a beautiful album, not groundbreaking, but it would appear to have more artistic merit than some of the other albums that were nominated, they shall not be named. This seems like a travesty. Ari Lennox was also missing from the nominations in spite of creating a no-skip neo-soul R&B album, Age, Sex, Location, and having one of the most successful R&B songs of the past year with Pressure.
Get it, don't be timid when you win it, fly. Say love upon me, live alone, leave it. Say I don't want no dream, baby, spread like you need it so.
Pressure definitely deserved a nomination. Kehlani was again snubbed in spite of having such a refreshing R&B meets pop, yet is authentically R&B album. Beyonce was nominated in the R&B categories for Renaissance, while the songs nominated in the R&B categories are some of the more R&B influenced tracks on the album. This caused some controversy because it's fundamentally not an R&B album. Not to mention the fact that the Grammys has not figured out a formula that means independent artists even stand a chance. So you can expect that there will be no recognition for independent artists that had some of the year's best music, some of the year's best R&B. Artists like Alex Isley, Sonny Colon, and Yaya Bay. But this year isn't the first time R&B nominations and awards have been off, to say the least. In November 2020, not a single Black woman was nominated for the 2021 Best R&B Album, which is strange in a year that had albums from Teyana Taylor, Brandy, Kehlani, and Summer Walker. This prompted a colourful response from Teyana Taylor. SZA also won no Grammy in 2018 in spite of being the most nominated artist that year. She had 5 nominations. Jhené Aiko has no wins in R&B at the Grammys. Summer Walker's Over It was also snubbed. The list goes on and on. So why can't the Grammys get R&B nominations and awards right? To answer that question, we have to contextualize the Grammys' relationship with R&B in light of the Grammys' relationship with Black music as a whole. That relationship is pretty tumultuous. A point that's been litigated over and over again is the near absence of Black winners in the Grammys' Big 4 categories, namely Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Album of the Year, and Best New Artist. This seems strange, quite frankly, in light of the undeniable fact that most modern genres of music were pioneered by Black artists, and Black music continues to be if not the major driving force that moves music and culture forward today. An inclusion initiative at USC recently reviewed Grammy nominees in the past 9 years and confirmed that Black artists were inadequately represented in the top 4 categories. It did this by cross-referencing the number of Black artists who made the Billboard charts over with the number of Grammy nominations Black artists received in the Grammys' Big 4 categories. This is a long-standing issue. There have been 64 Grammy Award years, but only 11 Black winners of Album of the Year. We all remember the awkward acceptance speech at the 2017 awards when Adele won Album of the Year, for 25, beating out Beyonce's Lemonade, which many thought Beyonce should have won, including Adele herself, saying, "I can't possibly accept this award," describing Beyonce's Lemonade as monumental and saying backstage that she voted for Beyonce to win. But maybe even more interesting and quite frankly problematic is that the few Black musicians that have won awards in the big four categories tend to have a familiar pattern. Writing for The Atlantic, John Villanova puts this phenomenon really well. The handful of Black artists who have taken home general field trophies often fit into a specific mold. They are perceived as individual auteurs, creators whose work stands alone outside the broader Black mainstream. For Black musicians to hoist a golden gramophone in one of these four categories, the Academy's voters essentially have to be convinced that the work of these artists is excellent because of its singularity, standing alone and above typical Black music. He cites as an example Stevie Wonder, who was the first Black Album of the Year winner. Stevie Wonder was at the time just coming out of a very public contractual spat with Motown Records. The narrative was that the label had prioritized the collective image over individual artists, and that he had fought the label hard to break away and stand alone on his own. Having done this, he was able to create an album that made him, a Black artist, finally deserving of the Album of the Year. You don't understand when you Since then, you see this pattern of Black artists that win in the big four being artists that sit somewhat apart from the contemporary Black music landscape and will often have a more traditional or retro feel. For example, at the 2022 Grammys, Jon Batiste took home Album of the Year, the first Black artist to do so for a while, for We Are, an album that sounds very reminiscent of the Ray Charles, James Brown eras. When I move my body just like this, I don't know why, but it feels like the same can be said of Silk Sonic, the other big winners at the 2022 Grammys, taking home Song and Record of the Year, among other awards in the R&B categories. Silk Sonic, the musical collaboration between two amazing artists, Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars, produced the monster hit, Leave the Door Open. What you doing? Where you at? Oh, you got plans. Don't say that. Shut your trap. That song and the Silk Sonic album was a major throwback to old soul. The entire branding, styling, and sound of Silk Sonic is retro, separating their sound from contemporary soul and R&B music. So what does it say if the winning formula for Black artists with Grammy voters is to stand apart from the contemporary Black music landscape and to choose to be more traditional and safer with your sound? And that this seems to be at least partly why artists like Summer Walker and Kehlani have missed out on being nominated, whilst other artists, say a Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande, seem to be able to be nominated and win with music that sounds very conventional and typical of contemporary music. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the Grammy nominations? Why do you think the Grammys can't seem to get R&B and Black music as a whole right? Who else do you think should have been nominated for a Grammy this year?
Get it, don't be timid when you win it, fly.